one of the challenges, so if we sort of spin on a little bit to Snatch Game. So on Snatch Game, obviously, like, so you did Barry Humphries as Dame Edna, who was or is sort of like an Australian comedy icon, and like Dame Edna, I'm very familiar with Dame Edna. One thing I kind of wanted, because I thought you did a really good job, by the way, like your impersonation was great, you were so funny. One thing that I kind of wasn't expecting, because I didn't actually know much about Barry Humphries other than that he did Dame Edna, was that there was this kind of there's a bit of like backlash against him because he's made some sort of transphobic comments in the past and he's sort of been shunned a little bit from the community. So I was just wondering, did you know that going into the Snatch Game, and did you expect that you might get some flack, some like criticism for playing him?
So no, that's the first answer is no. I had no idea that this was even attached to Barry Humphries or Dame Edna or whatever. So that's the first part. And if I had known that previously, would I have done it? Probably not. It's really that simple. It's really interesting that you brought that up. Very well done, Mr. Matt. I see you. So I saw where you were going 5 minutes into it. I was like, oh, okay, all right, we're going here. So no, I had no idea. And of course, when it was kind of brought up and stuff like that, I was kind of like, okay, look, I can understand why people would be upset, but I can't change that. And for me personally, regardless of some comments that were made, you can't completely erase somebody's legacy. And if we really want to start looking at legacies of drag, Barry Humphries is definitely one of those legacies that, has helped pave the way for us to even be here today. Because if we're talking about mainstream drag, there's nobody more mainstream drag than Barry Humphries. So, there has to be an element of respect, but at the same time, don't condone what he said at all. Like, get a grip. Like, we shouldn't start criticizing the people that have, like, made it okay for you to make a career out of it either. So I totally understand. But yeah, no, if I'd known, I just wouldn't have done it. If I want to like spill all the tea, do you want to know who I was wanting to do? So I was gonna do Jamae from Summer Heights High and do Chris Lilly and Jamae, do Mr. G and Jamae. But unfortunately, that wasn't allowed due to some reasons. And then my next one was Patsy from Ab Fab, which I'd already done in House of Drag. So I was like, okay, we'll chuck her in there. But RuPaul really convinced me out of doing Patsy because I'd never seen Patsy on Snatch Game at all. And she was like, no, somebody has done it. And I was like, nobody has done it. But of course, the Vivian had just done it in the season that she had filmed. So Barry Humphries was all that was left. And the last other option was Anna Faris. So she's still in the pocket for maybe another time. But yeah, no, and after doing it, like, I'd probably think about it completely differently. Like, ask more questions about this episode because there's a lot. Like, this was an awful episode for me. Awful.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, so I can, going back to your point, your sort of previous point, I didn't know about the Barry. I knew who Barry Humphrey was, but I didn't know about any of the drama and like the stuff that he had said. And obviously, I don't condone that either. And I think it's a fair point that you made that, you have to in some way separate the artist from what they've previously done. And especially if you didn't have any idea about it. So I don't blame you for that at all. I just thought it was interesting to hear your perspective on it after having heard about it. I seen once the show came out. Because other people have done much worse people on Snatch Game.
Oh, so hello. I was like, get a grip, really? Like, and I honestly had no idea. So when it kind of came up, I was like, I mean, it's not like people were coming for me, but there were a few comments and I was kind of like, I don't understand. So of course I did some research and I saw the comments and I was like, okay, well, I totally understand. I didn't know that at the time. So it's that simple.
Yeah, and at the same time, he's an Australian legend or down under legend, and like it's such an iconic character. I knew as soon as I saw the glasses, I knew who you were. It was funny.
Exactly. And this is the thing about Snatch Game too. It's like, this is why I chose characters like this, was like, that's why Barry Humphries was on the list, was because it's so iconic to the world that no matter where in the world you watch the show, you wouldn't understand who I was. It's like when people, we have no idea. Like, who is Celia Cruz? I have no idea. No idea. So you need to pick somebody that is going to relate with everybody, you know? And that's how I thought about it too. That's why she was on the list. And Jamae, hello, because I was going to be super cash. Yeah. My 3-finger bit snap. Yeah. Daddy.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
To Mr. G's room. Geez, I was gonna start singing at a keyboard and everything, but anyway, that's another story.
So it sounds like you would have killed it regardless.
I would have killed if I could have done what I had prepared to do. Yeah.
So you said earlier so that this episode was really bad for you. So can you sort of explain why that was?
So this episode was like, I feel like there was an expectation on me to do well in Snatch Game, and I felt the pressure. Where you sit in the lineup can matter, because if you're at the end or you're at the beginning, you've either got to open with a bang or you're going to close with a bang. So you're in a really hard place. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. I thought, like, what I thought I knew before going into it, absolutely none. And as soon as that first joke landed, there was no laughter, like none. So in my head, I just went, I've already it, and I spiraled that whole thing. It was awful. All I kept looking at was how many cards is RuPaul holding in his hand the whole time. Like, how many more questions? Let's go. Let's get off the stage. I want to get out of here. Yeah, literally. It was awful. And I still did okay. Like, I kept on paddling, but yeah, it was so much harder than anybody ever thinks. It's way harder. And it's harder when you need the volleys, and you need people that are going to interject. And it's just this massive improvisation. It's crazy. Like, it's really hard work. It's hard work. And Hannah did a bloody good job, because she killed it. I was like, yeah, she killed it.